It was an unceremonious end of the season for St. Louis Cardinals first baseman Willson Contreras. Could this actually be the end of his time with the Cardinals? We'll talk about it today on Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafron, and I am your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. I'm a former national radio sports anchor, born and raised in St. Louis, lifetime Cardinals fan. I bleed red, but not just because blood is red, but because I live and die for the Cardinals. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode being brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to get your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Go to www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. On today's show, we're going to take a look at last night's dominating win by the Cardinals over the Brewers. How many times have we been able to say that this year? Not many. A lot of positives to take away from that win, including the start by Sonny Gray and Jordan Walker stinging the hell out of the baseball. But let's start with Willson Contreras, who, as you know, was done for the season after going on the IL due to his right bicep strain. Now, unlike Mason Wynn, where the Cardinals said, yeah, there's no risk of him doing any more damage to the knee. He can play through this. Wilson's injury was something different that actually could get worse. It was something that was a problem. Things could get really bad after that and more severe. So shutting him down was the right call for sure, because we're talking about if he kept going, you could start tearing the labrums and stuff like it gets bad. And it's an area that you don't want to go, because then you just kind of lose all the strength in your shoulder. And that's not a good thing for somebody pushing his mid-30s. So I'm glad that they shut down Willson, just like I'm glad they shut down Mason Wynn, because even though that knee injury couldn't worsen, I still fear the damage that he could do to other parts of his body while he's compensating for whatever knee issues and pain he's dealing with. So good job by the Cardinals on both for not pushing it any longer than they needed to be. Now, again, if this was a playoff situation and they were chasing a spot and they were right there on the verge, maybe things would be different, but it's not. So right move in my opinion for both. Willie told reporters that he'd been dealing with this tightness since before September the 5th. Lately, it's been getting a little tired and worse than before, so we're just trying to be careful. Said he explained to the doctors what he was feeling, and they just tried to take it day to day. But he's done. Done for the season. Overall, I'm pleased with what we got from Willson Contreras. I think you should be too, because 2025 could have been a tough year for Willie. You know, making the position change from catcher to first base, that may not have gone over all that well. You know, it could have went sideways quick, where he was so worried about what's happening in first base, where you're involved in so many more plays as far as, you know, infielders go, like you're constantly doing something that, you know, maybe that would derail from what we would get from him, like offensively. But it worked out nicely on both sides, both offensively and defensively. Last season was, you know, such a disaster for him physically. You had the broken arm when he got hit by the bat, and then the finger after that. But this year, he was relatively healthy for the most part, not having to catch anymore. I'm guessing surely helped with that. Less wear and tear on the body, less demanding position over at first base. The biggest threat for injury really was other pitchers hitting him with the baseball. The dude got beamed over and over 23 times this year, which was tops in the National League and second only to Randy Arozarena in the American League at 27. The hitting numbers were solid. He set new career highs in quite a few categories, including runs scored, hits, doubles, RBIs, and total bases. At the beginning of the year, we always do the squad show where it's like the NL Central preview, and everybody's like, all right, what's a good hot take that you got? What's going to happen with your team this year? My hot take or bold take was that Willson Contreras would be the most productive first baseman in the NL Central in 2025. And for the most part, he fulfilled that prophecy. Michael Busch of the Cubs is right there with him in just about every category, but he also appeared in 12 more games than Willie has so far. But Willie finished at 257. This was his slash line, 257, 344, 447. The OPS at 791. Busch currently at 256, 336, 491, OPS at 827. They're neck and neck, obviously, in slash lines, and pretty much every other baseball card stat you can pull up, they're right next to each other. You got runs, Willie 70, Bush at 71. Hits, Willie 126, Bush 127. Doubles, Willie 31, Bush 22. Triples, Willie 1, Bush 4. Home runs, Willie 20, Bush 29. Big discrepancy on that one. Extra base hits in total, Willie 52. Bush 55, RBIs, Willie 80, Bush 81, stolen bases, Willie 5, Bush 4. So offensively, you give the edge to Michael Bush, I think. And you can throw out the excuse that, hey, he's in a better lineup. He's, at a better hitting ballpark at Wrigley Field compared to Busch Stadium. And that's fine. You could do that. But, simply looking at the stats, the point is, I can't complain about what we got from Willson Contreras offensively in 2025. The defensive side was the side that you worried about as well, because, you're going to be skeptical. This is a catcher who rarely has played over at first base. He had done it before, but rarely. We know he's got good hands. We know he's got a great arm, but you're coming from Paul Goldschmidt at first base over the last few years, who one of the best defensive first basemen in the league still is, saved the Cardinals bacon many, many times with his ability to make stretches and plays and pick things over at first base. You're like, how's Willie going to do over there defensively? Is it going to be okay? And I think we can agree that he was more than adequate in 2025. Now, among qualified NL first basemen, he finished second to the Braves' Matt Olson, who's a two-time Gold Glove Award winner. So no slouch at all at first base. But second to only Matt Olson in outs above average with 6, currently tied with Spencer Steer of the Cincinnati Reds. And the Reds rave about the defensive capabilities of Spencer Steer. So if they're raving about him, maybe we should be giving Willie even more credit when he's tied with them for outs above average. Michael Bush, a -2 in outs above average. So big discrepancy there. Defensive runs saved, he finished -1, while Bush is currently at 0. So nothing really to speak of there. And it says he made an even amount of throwing and fielding errors. It says he's got 9 errors, 4 of them fielding, 4 of them throwing. So I don't know how that adds up. Maybe I'm missing something there, but the things that stood out to me was not fielding errors. It was the throwing errors, specifically the throw to second base on possible double play balls. Those seem to give him trouble. And it makes a lot of sense because that ain't easy. Like, it is a very tough angle. It's like, all right, catcher throwing down to first base. And when the first base or the runner going down the line and they don't get into that little box that they're supposed to be in, although nobody ever calls it for whatever reason. I don't even know why the box is there. But, that throw down there, you know how the catcher has to like step outside or go inside the line, and that's how he makes the throw there. And it's a little more difficult over at first base because you don't really have time to just go, hey, I'm going inside, and then take a little crow step and go ahead and do that. You get it and you got to fire it. And more times than not, that runner is going straight at second base. Or if you get a really smart runner and they know what angle that first baseman is at, they'll sometimes go a little bit outside of the baseline a little bit to make it even more worse as far as the angle goes, or go inside if the first baseman was, cheating in. So it makes that throw very, very difficult. And I feel like Willie had some trouble with that this year. So if he cleans that up and gets better at that, I'm sure he'll work on it. He's a professional. Might shave a couple of those errors off next season, be even better over at first base. So you can argue that he was the best first baseman in the NL Central this year. You can make that argument, and that's pretty good considering how things have gone for this team this season. Willie moving positions. The question is really, will Willie be back next season? It's something to think about. Because is it actually in the Cardinals' best interest to have him back next season? I've got some things I want to discuss about that on why and why not moving on or keeping him is the smart play. We'll dive into that next on Locked On Cardinals. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients, 0 sugar, 0 crashes. What more do you need? And what I love most about the 5-hour energy shots is they're small, right? They're portable. Just put them in your pocket, put them in your backpack, whatever you got to do. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere, get that boost that you need. I always reach for I'm a peach guy. All right. I love peach flavored things. So peach mango is kind of my go-to when it comes to the 5-hour energies, but I'm not shy about trying new things. They're all refreshing and give you a quick lift before a busy day. But, fall is rolling in. We're in the middle of September, getting closer to the end of it, really. So, the fall weather, even though I feel it's in the 90s and stuff in St. Louis, fall is coming, which means pumpkin spice, right? I'm jumping in on that. I'm going to give that a whirl. I also want to try the Outer Worlds 2 Purple Berry Bunch, the Glow Motion. Those all look cool. I love how fast 5-hour energy kicks in. Sugar-free, obviously good as far as the calories. And you don't have to drink a whole can of stuff. It's small, it's quick, it's potent. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorite you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you enjoy daily Cardinals content, you can follow the podcast on X at @LO_Cardinals. We're also on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals as well. So after letting Paul Goldschmidt, future Hall of Famer probably, walk after last season, questions arose about who would end up taking over that first base job. That was our first discussion. It was like, all right, there's no way they're re-signing Goldie, right? They're going to move on from that. But who are we going to put over there? You had Alec Burleson, was certainly somebody in consideration. Lucan Baker was still on the 40-man roster at that time. But because of the depth at the catcher position, moving Willson Contreras to first base made perfect sense as long as he was up to do it. We know he enjoys catching. He loves being part of that. And it made sense. It also created another playing time crunch for the guys in the outfield because of Alec Burleson, because you already had Newt and Victor and Jordan Walker and Brendan Donovan, and then you got Burley. You still had Michael Ciani. Still people thinking about him, whether or not he should be on the team. And yeah, he's still in the organization. He's with Memphis. Some thought Matt Koperniak might make a push in spring training after having a big year. The odd man out early on was actually Alec Burleson. If you remember, they were like, all right, well, our best defensive outfield doesn't include Alec Burleson, so we can use him as a DH, but he's not that great against lefties. So at the beginning of the year, Alec Burleson was not getting the everyday at-bats. He was the odd guy out. But you look at his numbers now and the back-to-back years where he's put up 2 solid seasons, he's established himself as an everyday guy in your lineup. There's no way you're taking this dude out ever again. And currently hitting .289, which is the 6th best batting average in the National League. He just crept all of a sudden. You're like, wait, what? Yeah. Alec Burleson is hitting .289? Yeah. 18 home runs, 66 RBIs. Like, you're not benching that ever again. Ever. The other guy that interests me that's on the roster that could also play first base, Ivan Herrera. I've brought this up multiple times. He struggles as a catcher. Those struggles have been well documented. He's not a very good thrower of the ball down to second base or third base. Not all that great behind the plate as far as blocking things. Very good hitter, though, a guy that you want in your lineup every day as well. Cardinals got a lot of depth at catcher. Pedro Pajes obviously has turned things around offensively recently, so that's been good, but we know how much the pitching staff enjoys him behind the plate. Jimmy Crooks is getting that look this month, along with other top prospects, Leonardo Bernal and Reynaldo Rodriguez. Crooks, Bernal, Rodriguez, those are 3 of your top 6 prospects in the organization, according to MLB Pipeline. You've also got Blaze Jordan, who they acquired in the Steven Matz deal, who plays first and is at AAA, batting .271 with 18 home runs and 96 RBIs this season. Now, he did split time at AA, where he played 44 games, and AAA, where he's logged 83 games. But it's kind of crazy how identical his stats are from the 44 that he played at AA, then the games that he played at AAA with Boston's farm system, and then what he's done since he's been at Memphis. The batting average isn't where you want it because it's at like 196, but the power, the RBIs, all that stuff, it's almost identical. So, and he's only 22 years old. So keep that in mind. He doesn't have to be rushed up to the big leagues, but he's there. We know the Cardinals aren't actively trying to spend more money than they need to. Willson still has 2 years remaining on his current deal. Next year is at 18 and then 18 and a half, plus a club option for 17 and a half in 2028. So you can see why the Cardinals would listen to offers if teams called about them. They'd be like, okay, well, but you also got to remember that Willson has a no trade clause. So if he doesn't want to leave, he ain't going anywhere. Doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to. But after 3 straight disappointing seasons for the St. Louis Cardinals, record-wise, 2 of them with Willie here, I wonder if he would be more interested in going to a team that is closer to competing for a world championship than the Cardinals are. You could say that about him, Nolan Arenado, and Sonny Gray. You know, guys, you realize that this is a rebuild, and, we love you guys. We think you guys are cool, and you're special guys, and we love having you around, but you're at a point in your career where, you still got some trade value, and you want to be here while this happens. A team would get Willson Contreras with those years under control. You get 2 more years of him. It's not like he's in a walk year at a price that I think is pretty darn fair, because if you go to what first basemen are making these days, Pete Alonso, $30 million, Vladdy, 28.5, Harper at 27.5, Freddie Freeman, 22.7, Matt Olson at 22, Christian Walker at 20. I mean, you got Contreras locked in there at 18 and 18.5. Josh Naylor's going to be a free agent this year. He's going to blow past him. But there's not a lot of other, like, when you look at the other first basemen in the league and you look at their production, Spencer Torkelson's still relatively cheap. Obviously, he's under $1 million still. So Michael Busch obviously is cheap. Spencer Steer's pretty cheap. But if somebody's looking for a veteran first baseman, they could do much worse than Willson Contreras right now. So you get him under those couple of years that he's still got left. He's 33, but he's not like 36, 37 years old where he's really on the back nine of the career. He's just kind of on the back nine, but he's just past he's probably at hole 10 or 11. He's still got some worth here. It really comes down to what Willie wants, which is the dangerous part about giving out no trade clauses is to veterans, especially during a time when your team is not in a competitive championship window, which makes me think that John Mozeliak, when he signed Sonny Gray and when he signed Willson Contreras, he didn't foresee it being as bad as it has gotten, or he wouldn't have done that. At least I don't think he would have. I think Mo's smarter than we give him credit for. Willie, Sonny Gray, Nolan Arenado, they're all in the same boat this offseason. And as we did it last offseason, it's like, well, what do you guys want to do? You want to be here or you want to go? If you want to stay, the Cardinals really don't have any power to say no. You could bench him and say, well, we're just not going to play you, but that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen. So essentially, we're stuck in the same spot as they were last offseason. We are at the mercy of these veterans, minus Miles Mikolas, whose contract expires after the season and has pitched really well in these last 4 outings. And now it's like, oh boy, are they going to try to re-sign him? Are they going to give him a 1-year deal or something? Personally, I don't think this team can actually afford to trade Willie away. There would be a massive hole in the lineup on a team that is already offensively challenged and has deficiencies on the offensive side. But what do you think? What sort of deal would it take to move Willie if he gave you the okay to do so? Would it have to be for Major League Arms, or would you be willing to go down the prospect route again, knowing that they're in this rebuild and they're not that much closer to being all that competitive? Which is, I still feel like they're closer than people think. You just need a couple of guys to progress better. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments section. I'm always thinking glass half full. So maybe I'm blinded by my love for the Cardinals. But speaking of Sonny Gray, let's talk about his start on Friday night and the win on Friday, because that was fun to watch. That was fun baseball for 99.5% of the time, base running not included. But for most of it, it was really, really fun. So let's get into that next on Locked On Cardinals. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. And that's not something you want to do. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you've put off organizing your finances, then Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money for once without ever touching a spreadsheet. They can help you identify that you aren't saving as much as maybe you thought you were. And it helps to notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. You got money out there that you don't even know about. They'll help you maximize your investments and increase your savings rate. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On MLB Game Night Show. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis, but on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now, there hasn't been a whole lot of fun nights at Busch Stadium in the second half of the season. Not a lot, but Friday was a very good night. It was very good. It was fun to watch Cardinal baseball on Friday night. There was a buzz. There was an energy. Adam Wainwright was in the house. They did do a small little tribute for John Mozeliak in his final series. But there was a nice buzz in the ballpark. It was good. And it helps when the team on the field is playing well, which they did for the most part. Again, minus the base running stuff that I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we doing these things? They've been doing them all year too, where they're trying to like steal run. I don't know. I don't get it. I guess when you're offensively challenged like you are, you're trying to come up with any way that you can do things, but I don't know. They look silly doing it on Friday. But anyway, the good stuff though, which is what the rest of this game was about, like Sonny Gray, solid on Friday. I used the word gem to describe it online, but I think I just kind of got caught up in the moment a little because 9 hits is hardly gem worthy, but the fact that the Brewers didn't do much with those 9 hits and that Sonny and the defense were able to work around them without any damage being done is the real story here. Sonny allowed just 1 run, solo home run, because that's what Sonny does these days. It's now 24 taters given up by him on the year, which continues to set his new career high. He is second on the club to Miles Michaelis, who's got 26. They rank 4th and 6th in the National League in home runs given up, which is never a good thing. But at the same time, he does go 6 innings. He strikes out 7, team leading 13th quality start. Cool little nugget from John Denton at MLB.com. The Cardinals improved to 15-5 at Busch Stadium in Sonny Gray's St. Louis starts, the most wins in the major leagues by a pitcher at his home ballpark. So that's something. The Cards' 15 home wins with Gray starting are tied for the second most in franchise history, trailing only Matt Morris, who had 16 at Busch Stadium 2 back in 2001. After the game, Sonny brought up how similar his outing on Friday was to what happened against the Brewers with him on the mound last week when he faced them, but things were a little bit different. There was a big change in this one, and he pointed out saying the difference this time is that I actually finished the 6th inning, and I learned from last week. There were some huge plays along the way. You're really able to put it away when you can come back in that 6th and put up a 0. My process throughout the week was just to be better. If I get myself in that 6th inning situation again, this world is crazy. Then 5 days later, I got myself in that exact same situation. This time, I got through it. Offensively, the Cardinals were able to get things going by not swinging the bat. Just don't swing, because Jacob Misiorowski, the Miz, as they call him, extremely wild in this one. He was all over the place, and they took advantage of it by letting him walk 3 to go along with a couple of hits, and they finally busted things open on that bases-loaded double by Nolan Arenado, who ripped one down the line after having an excellent 8-pitch at bat. That was a fun at bat to see, where you could tell Nolan was on it. Like, he was seeing the ball well, and count went full. He fouls 2 pitches off on opposite corners, by the way, which is not easy, before lacing that double down the line. Alec Burleson, another 3-hit night. He's batting .423 over his last 7 games and 314 over his last 30, which, as I mentioned earlier, bumped his average to 289, which is now 6th best in the National League. Everyone in the starting lineup had a hit, at least one hit. But the guy I was most excited about getting his hits was Jordan Walker, who I continue to root for, who I continue to wish the best for, because I want to see him and Nolan Gorman succeed. It would be huge for this franchise if both of them could work out. I think Jordan has a better chance of sticking around and doing it in a Cardinal uniform compared to Nolan Gorman, who's starting to get a little bit older, and we're seeing that infield crunch where he's on the bench again. But Jordan Walker scalded his 2 hits on Friday. Absolutely scalded them. First one at 118 miles per hour. Second one at 114. Now, he did come up with the bases loaded earlier in the game and nobody out. Birds were up 1-0 at the time. Huge chance to really do some damage and put a dent in things, and he grounded into a double play. On the surface, that sucks, right? You're like, oh, double play. But he didn't strike out. He actually put the ball in play instead of going down swinging or watching strike 3 go by. And that's a positive for a guy who's had trouble putting the ball in play. So doing that instead of striking out, that's a positive. He got the runner in from third base. It cost us 2 outs, but it made the score 2-0. You got a run in. That was the job. Get one of these guys in. Got that job done. Sure, you want more. I know that. But those 3 at-bats, plus he flew out sharply to center, 103 off the bat when he did that earlier. It tells me that Jordan was also seeing the ball pretty good, just like Arenado. So good job, Jordan Walker. Keep it up. We're all rooting for you, bro. You also get 3 shutout innings from Gordon Graceffo and Ryan Fernandez after Sonny left. Graceffo's breaking ball was filthy. Gordo looked good last night. That was fun to watch. And I'm anxious to see his role expand in the bullpen for next year. I don't think they're going to use him as a starter. I feel like they enjoy him as a relief pitcher. So I feel like that's probably where he's going to be. I would imagine if they're going to move somebody into the rotation, it's starting to seem more and more like it'd be a Kyle Leahy type of thing, and then Graceffo could take over his role. But I was very impressed with what I saw there. And then with Ryan Fernandez, you're just trying to get positive results out of him. You're trying to get him out there and not get shelled. Gave up a couple of hits. They weren't exactly hit all that hard. It wasn't anything special, but he didn't allow a run. So we'll take it. Good job, Rhino. So great start to the final series of the season at home. Miles Michaelis on the bump today. Then Sunday, you got Matthew Liberatore. Cardinals trail in the season series against Milwaukee, who still have the best record in Major League Baseball. They're 5-6 against them so far this year. So a chance to tie them today and then beat them. If they get a sweep, you win the season series against them, which is that's good. Just like they did against the Reds recently, who are now pushing for a wild card spot. So also, before we close out, shout out to the Springfield Cardinals going to the Texas League Championship Series. Their best of 3 finals against Midland will begin on Sunday in Springfield. So good luck to you guys. Team's looking for its first championship title since 2012. So best of luck there. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. For your second listen, obviously check out MLB Game Night. The boys will be back on there this evening, covering everything that's going on in Major League Baseball. If you haven't already, give us a follow on X at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio, TikTok, Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. We're on YouTube as well. If you haven't subscribed yet, please give us a subscription, and it really helps the channel grow when you like and subscribe. So if you like Cardinal content, we'll be with you the entire offseason. We're not going anywhere. We're still here. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.